Hi, and welcome to Teaching Tip Tuesday, brought to you by the Center for Inclusive Teaching and Learning at UWSP. Educators know that the classroom climate significantly impacts what goes on there. Climates that are based on consistency, enthusiasm, and respect are conducive to learning and can be a joy for teaching. Those based on unpredictability, apathy, and disrespect are conducive to neither teaching nor learning. When this is the climate in the classroom, an instructor's best laid plans can become completely derailed. That's why for the next couple of weeks, I'd like to talk about classroom management. Classroom management in higher education refers to the strategies and techniques that instructors use to create and maintain a positive classroom climate that is conducive to learning. Effective classroom management helps ensure that students can focus on the material being presented, participate meaningfully in discussions, and engage in activities that enhance their learning. Let's discuss 3 styles of management: autocratic, democratic, and laissez-faire. Although most instructors don't spend much time thinking about it, they each have a style of managing their classrooms. Some instructors are relatively autocratic in their approach. This is sort of the traditional model for how college courses are organized. They revolve around strict rules and expectations. Autocratic instructors establish clear, rigid rules and expect students to follow them without question. Control is exercised by the instructor with limited student autonomy. The instructor makes decisions about what will occur in class and expects compliance from students who have little to no input in either how the classroom is run or in their learning process. The focus is on compliance and obedience in learning. Emphasis on discipline is common. Discipline is enforced through strict consequences for misbehavior. Punishments can be severe but are applied consistently. For example, point penalties for late assignments, or strict zero policies for academic misconduct, or extreme limitations on the provision of make-up exams or assignments. Instruction is usually instructor-centric, the sage on the stage. Teaching is based on lectures, with students expected to passively absorb content that's delivered by the instructor. There tends to be minimal interaction. There's a low level of personal interaction between the instructor and the students, and between the students and their peers. The instructor may not seek to build personal relationships with the students. Autocratic management is largely focused on maintaining control and order in the classroom. Compliance with expectations is prioritized over creativity and may come at the expense of student engagement. Other instructors take a more democratic classroom management approach, emphasizing collaboration, mutual respect, and student involvement in the learning process. These classrooms tend to be characterized by student participation in decision-making processes, with an emphasis on inclusivity and fairness. This ensures that every student has a voice and that their opinions are considered, helping students to feel empowered in their education and respected. Students have input on course expectations and rules, as well as learning activities, fostering a sense of ownership over their education. They are actors, not just passive recipients of knowledge. Respectful communication is modeled, with instructors engaging in active listening to student concerns and seeking student feedback, enhancing the respectful character of the classroom climate. This can lead to a more balanced idea of classroom authority, as democratic instructors balance control with student freedom. There are clear expectations, but these may be flexible and open to student input. Instead of being focused on discipline, democratic instructors show empathy and sensitivity towards students' needs and emotions. They strive to understand and address individual student challenges, creating a supportive learning environment that's less focused on punishment for non-compliance and more focused on supporting the students. This is often associated with a preference for positive reinforcement over penalties to encourage desired behaviors and academic effort. This helps to build a positive classroom atmosphere and motivates students to perform well. Rather than strictly lecture-based formats, active and collaborative learning are emphasized. Instructors using a democratic classroom management style encourage active student participation with group work and peer teaching. This promotes formation of relationships between the instructor and students and among the students, which enhances student engagement and learning. This approach helps students develop teamwork and social skills. It's also associated with increased opportunities to think critically about diverse perspectives that are brought into the classroom environment. These characteristics help to create a dynamic and engaging classroom environment where students feel empowered and motivated to learn. Still, other instructors adopt a laissez-faire style of managing their classroom. A laissez-faire approach to classroom management is characterized by minimal instructor intervention and a high degree of learner autonomy. The high student autonomy helps students to have significant freedom in choosing their learning activities, setting their own goals, and managing their time. The instructor does little to direct or control the student's learning. This hands-off approach means that the instructor only provides guidance and only when absolutely necessary. This can foster independence. The encouragement of self-directed learning is strong. Students take responsibility for their own learning, which can promote self-motivation and self-regulation. These systems are characterized by high learner engagement. The upside of high autonomy is that students can be very engaged in the learning process, but simultaneously, learners with less intrinsic motivation or lower executive function tend to show higher levels of frustration and may flounder. Laissez-faire classroom management often results in limited opportunities for feedback and assessment of learning. Instructors using this style of management often provide minimal feedback, which can result in students not receiving the guidance they need to improve. Many may miss key resources or ideas. One of the significant drawbacks of this type of classroom management style is the potential for disorganization. Without clear guidelines and structure, the classroom can become disorganized and some students may struggle to stay focused and on task. While this approach can be beneficial for fostering independence and creativity, it may not be suitable for all students, particularly those who need more structure and guidance to succeed. It's worthwhile to consider where your classroom management practices fall, because management style impacts the climate in the classroom. How comfortable students feel, whether they have a good sense of belonging, and whether they have some autonomy all affect your ability to really engage your learners and lead them to success in the classroom. In general, research indicates that the more democratic style is more effective at stimulating student engagement and enhancing performance. Summing up the gist of the research, under autocratic rule, students don't have autonomy to make decisions. They do their assignments because they have to. Under this type of classroom management, students may not comply. They have little ownership, and there isn't room for them to thrive or spread their wings. They may not necessarily be invested in the learning process. On the other side of the spectrum, under laissez-faire management styles, traditional undergraduates who are still developing their self-regulatory abilities often fail to thrive. This is because although they have plenty of autonomy, they don't receive the structured guidance they need to push the limits of their zone of proximal development. If the democratic style is best for student learning and satisfaction, you might wonder why other forms of classroom management persist. Here we get into my opinions, not the research. First, absent specific training on classroom management, people tend to gravitate to the familiar. We teach as we were taught. Second, as with everything else, there are trade-offs going on. As an instructor of large, multi-section, high-content courses at the introductory level, I gravitate toward a more autocratic approach because it's easier for me than trying to wrangle 150 students into agreeing on things. With high numbers of students, every exception to a rule adds hours to an instructor's workload, and there are just limits to what instructors are able to do with a standard 60-hour academic work week. Finally, there are situational differences in efficacy of different approaches. The laissez-faire approach is great in independent study, for example, or in student research. Regardless of your overall management style, there are things you can do that will improve the climate of your course and student success. Next week, I'll cover some best practices for college classroom management that you should consider adding to your repertoire. Different management styles have different impacts on learners. Being mindful of your own style and proclivities in managing your classroom will help foster critical consideration of the learning environment you're providing to students. And that's this week's teaching tip, brought to you by the Center for Inclusive Teaching and Learning here at UWSP. Remember, at CITL, we offer support for course design, learning activities, assessment, and pedagogy. Visit our website to schedule a consultation today.